Welcome to the module on online communication. Hi, I'm Dr. Mike Posey, Professor of Communication and Popular Culture at Franklin University in Columbus, Ohio. Tell you a little bit about myself. I've been teaching for about 25 years, off and on. I've done a whole variety of things, including owning a tech company and doing a lot of training and development. But for the past 15 and a half years, I've been teaching full-time at Franklin University. And back in the mid-90s, I actually started teaching online on the web, back when web courses were first kind of coming out and becoming popular and things. And over the years, I've learned a few things in terms of communicating online and students online and being a faculty member online and things like that. I teach a lot of face-to-face courses. I teach just as many online courses. And to be honest with you, there's no difference. The modalities may be a little bit different, but in terms of the teaching, the aha experiences, the outcomes, the rich experiences and things like that, very, very much the same. Communication, however, is the key that binds online education in terms of its value. Is one of its major values. So hopefully we're going to talk about online communication today. I'll give you a few tips and hopefully you can get a nugget or two that you can take back and use with you. Let's get started. First of all, let's start at the 30,000 foot view with the concept that ideas do not exist until they have been incorporated into expression. This is a concept that is extremely important, and we all know that how you express your idea is just as important in a lot of ways, if not more important in some instances, than the idea itself. The online world is no different. You must be able to express yourself, to communicate properly, because expression is communication. And when we think of the face-to-face classroom, we can think of maybe if we show up in class wearing a bunny suit and a silly hat, that's going to give a particular perception of us, right? It's going to give a particular kind of expression of who we are and kind of set the tone for the class. Well, the same way in the online world, we constantly have to be aware that expression, communication equals perception. So as we develop online courses, as we teach our online courses, we constantly have to be aware that these things are kind of in interplay with one another. So with that said, let's talk about a couple of things that we can think about in the online environment. Online communication is very visual. Visual learners and students who are very visually oriented love online communication for the most part. I mean, online courses for the most part, and they love the visual aspect of communication, whether it's video, whether it's just reading something on the screen, that sort of thing. But we have to remember that in our classroom, we have all different types of learners. We have kinesthetic learners, we have auditory learners, we have learners that seek experiences and are very experiential, very tactile, that sort of thing. So as we're developing our online courses, one of the things that I would challenge you and encourage you to do is to develop and teach your courses with a variety of learners in mind. It's very easy in the online environment just to focus on the visual aspect because, after all, there it is. It's very visual. It's a visual medium. But focus on the auditory aspect. Focus on the experiential aspect, getting students together in small groups, in small chat rooms, or in Google Circles or something like that, and having them discuss different topics or different things, giving them various experiences and things that they can do as teams, as individuals, as an entire class, that sort of thing, to be engaged with those students. So don't concentrate necessarily just on the visual. Make sure that you account for all learning styles in the online classroom. Also, an online classroom has permanence, and any communication that you have online obviously has permanence. And this is both a good and a bad thing. That permanence can basically keeps a record of everything that is uttered, that is seen, that is done online. There are a lot of software out there, depending on what you're using, that can capture all of that information that you have in the classroom. That can capture transcripts, that can do transcripts of chat rooms or audio transcripts transcripts or recordings of audio sessions and video sessions and things like that. That is a good thing as a teacher because, one, as a teacher, it enables you to go back and review what you did in class. If I'm in the face-to-face classroom, I can't go back the next day and hit the rewind button and watch what I did that day. But if I'm in the online environment, the software that I'm using may enable me to be able to do that. So I would encourage you to use that to your advantage, and also use it to the student's advantage. One of the things that I've incorporated into my classes is having students go back and look at the chat room transcripts and analyze some things that were said and discuss some of the topics that were said that we didn't necessarily get to in the chat, but were just as valid and just as important. So a lot of times you can go off on some of those tangential conversations that are actually applicable to the content just by asking the students to go back, review the transcript, and tell me about X or tell me about Y, that sort of thing. So that permanence, I'd encourage you to use that to your benefit. Also, online communication involves choice and evaluation. In the face-to-face classroom, a lot of chatter occurs and a lot of babble, so to speak. I found over the years, and some of the research shows, that there's not a lot of babble or chatter in an online class. And that's because, think about it, if we're typing stuff into a chat room, we're thinking about what we're going to say, because we all know that what we type in that chat room is permanent. We all know that everyone's going to see it and all that sort of thing. And so you get a lot less of that chatter. Now, you may have other noise that's occurring at the student's house or wherever they're taking the course or something like that, or even in your house. You might have a kid crying or something going on or, that sort of thing. But in terms of chatter, when people type something, they write something, they say something in a chat room via audio or video connection or whatever, that's really most of the time thought out, whereas normally in a face-to-face situation, a lot of times people just kind of go off the cuff. So that choice and evaluation can work in a positive way as well if you build it build the class knowing that will take place. Online communication is also very misinterpreted. Very easily misinterpreted, I guess to say, because there are limited sensory cues. In the face-to-face classroom, you can obviously hear inflections and modulations in someone's voice. If they're joking, if they're serious, if they really are inquisitive about something. In the online classroom, you may not necessarily know that. Some of those sensory cues, those nonverbals, that body language and stuff isn't there unless you're doing audio or video or something like that. But I can tell you that there are other ways that we can actually, just by the words on the page and just by the content of what's seen, you can actually get some of those sensory cues and find some of that nonverbal information in the virtual classroom. We'll talk about that in a sec. Also, online communication, being in an online classroom, involves human beings. And this is really important. It's so simple we forget about it. Our students forget about it. We forget about it. The people on the other side of the screen, that person on the other side of the screen is a human being with feelings, thoughts, interpretations. They may have had a bad day. They may have had a good day. Who knows? Just like those students who come and sit before you in a classroom, those students who are sitting across from you on that computer screen, through that computer screen, I guess, they also have all that other stuff going on. And so just as you may tune out, this session every once in a while as we're talking, and you may tune back in, listen to a couple things I'm saying, then tune back out and stuff like that, so do your students. And that's something to keep in mind, that those students are human. They have that mental noise that we all have. The nice thing is, depending on whether you're doing synchronous or asynchronous, the online world and communicating online can be a lot less noisy, as we've talked about before, particularly in asynchronous environments, because then students are able to sit and think about what they're going to say before they actually say it. Other things to think about. The software or hardware definitely informs the pedagogy, and I know that in times of tight budgets and financial constraints and things, sometimes it's hard to to actually choose the software. You're kind of given the software or whatever. But I would encourage you to pick software that really does appeal to all different learning styles. Now here we're just doing a basic PowerPoint with a voiceover. That's real simple for this type of training thing. That makes sense. But for a classroom situation, this would not make sense. This would be too visual. It wouldn't include any interaction, that sort of thing. It doesn't include any type of feedback from you all. So choose the software and the hardware based on the learning styles you have and the type of students that you have. Also know that not every student obviously has the latest and the greatest machine or tablet or whatever they're using to take the course. So you must kind of teach and develop your course to the lowest minimum standard. I would definitely encourage, if you can, to pick hardware and software minimums that all students must have, whether it's a video cam or whatever, or certain requirements on their machines, on their tablets, on their computers, and stick to that. And then that way you can you can develop the course a lot easier than you could otherwise. Now, we talked about this a little bit earlier, but words carry tonal messages online, and that's the great thing. You can actually pick up a lot of nonverbal signals just by the words that students are using in the online classroom. And this is particularly poignant in chat rooms, in transcripts as you read them or you listen to them. Words like think and feel and believe and know and understand, all those kind of things. I mean, you can Google a whole bunch of those types of feeling words, those tonal type of words. But they do set the tone. And so I would encourage you as an instructor in an online environment to really kind of pick apart the communication that occurs and think about some of those words and the way they're constructing sentences and things like that. Because it really does, give you an idea as to their mood, as to their disposition, and as to their engagement. On the flip side of that, they're also doing that. And we as human beings do this all the time with language without even thinking about it. Your students are also picking up on those tones and those words and that sort of thing. And so there's a lot of analyzing going back and forth in the online world. Where in the face-to-face world, the analysis within the classroom may not be as in depth. Whereas if I'm staring at a sentence on the screen from in a chat room, I can kind of pick that sentence apart because there it is. It exists right there in front of me. In the face-to-face classroom, the teacher may say something. The student doesn't necessarily have time to pick it apart. So think about that as well. Also, language is really important, and I would encourage you, and obviously you probably do, in the academic setting, we have a whole lexicon that's OMG, LOL, all that kind of stuff, and that's great for short communications and bursts of communications and interpersonal type of stuff. But in the academic environment, it's very important to stress that students must write in a formal manner, and I make my students write in a formal manner in the chat room as well, and use actual sentences in the chat room, and that kind of gets them in the mindset of this is an academic environment, this sort of thing. Online communication means confirming people, it means creating context with others, and it means listening and demonstrating that you are listening. Let's talk about confirming and disconfirming people. When you communicate online, do not by any means have a monologue. Now, I understand I'm having a monologue, but this is a little bit different animal. But effective communication, online or off, does not mean having a monologue, because when all you do is talk, blah, 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 that's the way you sound to your students. And you disconfirm them, and you kind of tell them that they don't matter. Their part of the conversation makes no difference. And that can make a student feel like they don't matter, so they're not going to go the extra mile. They're not going to work hard. They're not going to try to engage and that sort of thing. What you really want to do is you want to have a dialogue, right? You want to have a dialogue with that person where it's a give and take. You're really talking to them, and you're really asking questions, and you're engaging them, and you're getting them together to talk and to discuss and things like that, to mold things around as a group and discuss them and things. That confirms folks, and that makes them feel validated and makes them feel like they want to go the extra mile for you, and they want to really do the best they can in the class. So in the online environment, it's really easy to do exactly what I'm doing now. Throw up a PowerPoint and start talking. But I can guarantee you your students will tune out. They won't be very successful in the course, or as successful as they could be. Have that dialogue. Go back and forth. Remember, the communication is 360 degrees. Communication should occur in that circle. It should be I talk to you, you talk to me, I listen, you listen, we talk to the group talks to us, and all that kind of stuff. It should be 360 degree. Everything should come full circle in the online classroom. This should be the way it is in the face-to-face classroom, but we all know that's sometimes practically difficult. The great thing is in the online classroom, a lot of times the novelty of it, the difference of the modalities and things that are being used can help students to really feel that there's a 360 degree communication circle going on. And so I encourage you to make sure that that's part of your online teaching. What a person wants in the online environment, they want reassurance. I found many students over the years just want to know that they're not by themselves. And that's why that dialogue is so important. That's why that those experiences and that experiential learning and outcomes within the course are important. That's why the visual medium is so important. That's why the auditory medium is so important in things. They want that high touch. They want things done immediately. They want to know that you're out there. They want to know that you care, and they want to know that other people are out there as well. And so I would really encourage you. And you know, to me, it's mandatory for me. Anytime I develop a course online, I always make synchronous activities, and that synchronicity can be either auditory or visual, or it can be just in a chat room itself, just text-wise. But I definitely would encourage you, strongly encourage you to make synchronous activities in your courses. The more the merrier, so to speak, because that will show that there are other people out there, not just you, but other people, and it also provides a lot of that high touch. They also want discipline. In an online environment, you need to be disciplined, and you need to set deadlines and time frames and have people be accountable for that. The online environment is so vast and it's so easy to get off track and things like that, if you don't have time frames, if you don't have those deadlines and stick to it and hold people accountable, your students will definitely get off track. So don't feel pressured. Make sure you ask a lot of clarifying questions. Handle things one at a time. Set response time expectations. Let students know that, okay, I'm not available at 3 a.m. in the morning. If you need to send an email or if you need to chat, you can let me know. I'll get to you at a normal time, as opposed to, don't expect a response as soon as you hit the send button, that sort of thing. And most of all, chunk your time, chunk your activities and things like that, so that it puts things in manageable portions, as opposed to unmanageable, very pressured filled situations. A couple of questions that I was asked. Given the lack of face-to-face time, how can teachers create a sense of community? Again, the biggest thing you can do is provide those synchronous activities. Show that you're out there, engage the students, and have them engage with you, have them engage with others. That 360-degree communication is extremely important. Set deadlines, have discipline. How might facilitators identify students who don't get it in an online environment? You don't have nonverbal cues, but you do, in a lot of ways, have those messages, those nonverbal messages. Students who don't speak up in the chat room, students who you notice after reviewing chats or looking at transcripts and things like that, just haven't really said much, or students who say things that might be off task. Those are some ways that you might identify those students. That's about all I have. Hopefully you got some nuggets out of something I said. Feel free to contact me anytime. My email address is drmikeposey@gmail.com, and I'm also on Twitter at Dr. Mike Posey. Would be more than happy to talk to you and discuss some things. So I wish you the best of luck, and thank you very much for listening to this conversation.